They say nothing good ever happens at 5 in the morning, but let me tell you, that's a lie. Sometimes, something so absurd and outrageous happens at 4:50 a.m. that you wake up, stare at your ceiling, and honestly wonder if you're still dreaming or if you accidentally moved into a sitcom written by Kafka. Me? I got woken up by the HOA, pounding on my front door like the cops in a drug bust, except these people had clipboards instead of badges. And that, my friend, is when my war started. I shot up in bed, heart pounding, all my old army reflexes screaming danger before I even knew what was happening. I'm stumbling through my dark hallway in boxers, adrenaline running hotter than my coffee pot, and there's this pounding fists, not knuckles, just wham, wham, wham on the front door. For a second I'm thinking, break in? But then I see 3 silhouettes through the curtain. 2 dudes in matching windbreakers, 1 lady with a clipboard the size of Texas. I open the door 3 inches, Glock locked up under the stairs, but close enough to make me feel brave, and I say, maybe a bit grumpier than I needed, "You got 5 seconds to tell me why you're beating down my door before I start calling this trespassing." She didn't flinch. That was the first sign I was dealing with a professional. Blonde bob, pearl earrings, pajama pants under a blazer. The kind of woman who's read one too many How to Negotiate with Terrorists books. "Mr. Merritt, I'm Karen Sheldon, president of Canyon Creek Trails Homeowners Association. We're here to serve you a formal notice of lease expiration." The words hung in the air like the smell of burned toast. Lease expiration? I bought this house with cash 3 years ago. No mortgage, no lease, no strings, just a man and his castle, you know? But there she was, waving some laminated document around, and her minions playing Judge Judy with a clipboard. According to their records, my house was leased from the HOA, and I needed to be out midnight last night. Section 13 point something. I must have looked like I'd swallowed a bug, because Karen started tisk-ing and rattling off community standards and civil code like she'd been rehearsing in the mirror. I said, "That document's a forgery. I never signed a lease. I'm not even in your HOA zone. Never have been." She clicked her tongue, barely glancing at me. "You'll need to vacate voluntarily, or we'll be forced to initiate removal procedures." Then she called the cops. Now, you'd think a sheriff rolling up at 5:10 a.m. would be the low point of my day, but you'd be wrong. Deputy Cullen was decent tall guy, beard, not one for drama. He listened. I handed him the title, the closing docs, the official county deed. He looked over everything, nodded, and said those words every homeowner loves to hear. "This might be a civil matter." Yeah, I almost laughed. Or screamed. Karen was standing in my driveway like she'd just won a custody battle, giving me this fake sweet smile and saying, "We'll see you in court. Due pack soon." You know that feeling when you're so mad you go cold? That was me. I sat in my office for the rest of the night, caffeine mainlining through my veins, watching the porch camera feed for the next round of shenanigans. By sunrise, I'd already called the county assessor, my realtor, and an old friend who does title law. These people wanted a paper war? Fine. I could stack documents higher than a Colorado snowbank. At the county clerk's office, Tasha Sharp Nails, sharper eyes told me someone had filed paperwork at 5:42 that morning, trying to change my property's classification into the HOA. There it was in black and white. Karen Sheldon's digital signature, a fake lease attached with my name scribbled on it, claiming I was a renter. My old San Antonio P.O. box as my current address. I'm reading this, thinking, who does this? How lazy can you get? I got notarized copies of everything, marched straight to the sheriff's office, and filed reports for attempted fraud, harassment, and criminal trespass. The desk officer just sighed and told me, "Probably civil unless there's clear criminal intent." Trust me, officer, this was criminal, just not the kind anyone wants to deal with before coffee. By the time I got home, I had a bright red envelope in my mailbox, stamped urgent final payment notice, with a bill for $9,300 in lease dues, late fees, and a QR code for online payment. At this point, I half expected to find a parking boot on my car. By noon, I'd installed 2 new security cameras and a motion sensor. Never trusted these people not to escalate. Then my realtor, Melanie, called fuming. The HOA had contacted her, fishing for confirmation about my supposed lease, and even sent a PDF, same forged one, only now with an e-signature timestamp. The digital signature was backdated, but the PDF was created that morning. Amateurs. And then, right when I was starting to feel the world was closing in, Dale showed up. Vietnam vet, old school, gruff but solid. He said, "Karen's telling folks you're squatting. Want me to set them straight?" I showed him the deed. "Hell yes, I'll say it on record. That woman's been trying to swallow up this side of the block for years." For the first time that day, I almost smiled. That night, I turned my office into a war room, scanning, digitizing, lining up timelines, creating folders named Fraud Evidence and Karen's Nonsense. The next day, glossy HOA flyers landed on every doorstep in the neighborhood. They accused Mebby Address, not by name off, being a non-compliant occupant, a danger to community values. Phones started buzzing with neighbors asking if I needed help moving, or worse, he offering to buy my kitchen table. That's when I realized this wasn't just legal. Karen was trying to exile me with gossip, make me an outcast before a judge ever saw a thing. So I printed my own flyers, 200 of them, each with a copy of my deed, the county zoning map showing my house outside the HOA, and a Dropbox link called Canyon Creek Fraud. I went door to door. Some people closed their doors. Others looked embarrassed. A few said they'd always thought the HOA was a little too aggressive. But you know what changed everything? A journalist named Mara Espinoza reached out, said she'd seen my flyer, wanted an interview. She'd been tracking HOA overreach cases for years, and this was gold for her. Forged leases, fake eviction, small-town intrigue. Meanwhile, my lawyer, Macy, called voice tight. "Owen, they filed for summary eviction this morning. Under the forged lease. They're claiming you violated every clause imaginable, including owning a firearm on leased property." I barked out a laugh-me legally owned Glock in a house I own outright, somehow breaking a lease that never existed. Macy was already drafting our response, including a motion to have the signature forensically analyzed. That night, I caught 2 HOA guys on my security camera chalking the curb on my mailbox. I stepped outside, gave them a warning. They bolted. Next morning, Mara came by for the interview. I laid it all out. Title chain, fake lease, fake invoices, everything. She shook her head. Bold, not smart. Her article dropped that afternoon headline. Veteran faces illegal eviction by HOA over forged lease. The story exploded online. Neighbors debated in Facebook threads and Nextdoor. Strangers reached out, some supportive, some calling me a squatter. Then, out of nowhere, I got a threatening letter. "Get out while you still can. Some rules can't be rewritten." That's when I knew this wasn't just a paperwork thing. Anymore, these people wanted to scare me out. Macy brought in a forensic doc examiner, Jerome. His report was blunt. The lease signature was a copy-paste job from an old banking document, digital signature backdated, all metadata fake. We added a counterclaim for fraud, forgery, harassment, full offensive. I started digging deeper and found out exactly where they got my signature, from a mortgage app I'd withdrawn back when I almost financed before buying in cash. The document had been accessed by a bank employee, Gavin Holno, working for the HOA. Data breach? Anyone? But here's the twist. Remember how I said there was always a wild card? 2 days before the hearing, Macy found Daniel Price, a former bank employee who'd sold customer info on the side. He admitted under oath he'd sent my PDF with signature to Karen, hoping for a finder's fee. When he said her name, Karen's face went white in the courtroom. The hearing was wild. Karen's lawyer tried to play it cool, waved around their fake lease, cited obscure HOA bylaws about asset recovery, and dropped words like procedural squatter. Macy stood up, slow and steady, and absolutely dismantled their story, showed the deed chain, brought up the forensic expert, and then Daniel's testimony. By the time the judge asked Karen for her defense, she tried to laugh it off. I only acted in the best interest of Canyon Creek. That house was meant to be common property. That was it. Not law, just entitlement. Judge recessed, but everyone knew how it would end. Next morning, the courtroom was tense. The judge didn't drag it out. He ruled the lease was fake, the HOA had no claim, and my deed was legitimate and exclusive. Then he recommended Karen for criminal prosecution fraud, filing false claims, attempted unlawful eviction. She didn't say a word as the sheriff cuffed her. Her lawyer just walked out, done. Then came the civil verdict. $800,000 for damages, legal fees, defamation payable by the HOA's remaining fund, and Karen's own insurance. The gallery exploded. One old guy yelled, "You bankrupted us." Outside, the press swarmed. How does it feel to bring down an HOA? I just said, it's about proving a deed means something. You can't just fake your way into stealing someone's life. By sunset, the story was everywhere. Karen's mugshot got more views than her press conference. The HOA board quit en masse. Some folks tried to save the neighborhood, but without funds, it fell apart. I got letters apologies from neighbors, threats from anonymous idiots, even a handwritten note from Karen's husband saying he was divorcing her. The state opened an audit, found out Karen had used HOA money for a wellness retreat that was mostly new massage chairs in her garage. You can't make this stuff up. A week later, I threw a cookout for the folks who stood by me. Ribs, cheap whiskey, Johnny Cash on the speaker. Near midnight, Frank the old mailman handed me a battered envelopian original zoning waiver, signed and notarized a decade ago, explicitly excluding my lot from the HOA. Karen had stashed it, hoping no one would find it. I scanned it, uploaded it to the county myself, just to make sure. By the end of the month, Karen was indicted on 3 felonies. My payout came in, and after lawyer fees and taxes, I had enough to finish my renovation, build a workshop, and be the hot tub I'd always wanted. But the real victory? Peace. No more threatening letters. No more compliance checks. My property, my rules. I put up a new gate sign, private property, not subject to HOA. Trespassers will be educated. Over the top? Maybe, but I earned it. The first time the city guys drove by and laughed, snapping a picture, I grinned harder than I had in months. The neighborhood changed. Quieter, surely emptier, maybe, but finally free. Houses sold, some out of shame, some just sick of the drama. I got a standing ovation at a real estate law seminar. Macy introduced me as the guy who taught an HOA what private property means. But that's not the legacy I care about. The real win is just walking my land at sunrise, coffee in hand, with nobody breathing down my neck. A house that finally, truly feels like home. And let me leave you with this: if one forged document can almost cost a man his home, how many others have gone down quietly, without a fight? What's your take? Was justice served, or did I just get lucky? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Ever fought an HOA or lost sleep over the fine print? I want to hear your stories. Let's talk about what's right, what's wrong, and what we'll put up with, because in the end, home should mean something nobody else can sign away.